Weston. Can I add to your point?
Dr. Baden.
Just to the same point Dr. Weston is making for your consideration, because I realize it's a difficult question for you to consider. But I was impressed very much with Dr. Weston's, what Dr. Weston has said. In reading your autopsy report, you specifically say that the entrance perforation that you're looking at is 15 by 6 millimeters,
yes,
which is the precise measurement of that area in the cowlick when we measure it out. And that area, as Dr. Petty pointed out yesterday, is in the central portion of the picture, as if that's what's being looked at by the camera. At the same time, from our looking, having the benefit of x-rays and everything, it lays right over what appears to be an x-ray, the entrance perforation in the skull. And the lower tissue, which is almost out of the picture, really is below the external occipital protuberance and does not fit in with the brain injury that's subsequently described. So I think one possibility, if you to consider and give thought to it, as Dr. Weston said, we can always have transcription errors and things like that. Everything fits what you described, to the way I view it, with the shape, the size of the entrance perforation, except where you place it. It really appears to be higher than what's placed next to the external occipital protuberance, and it's the one area that's not clearly defined that you probably want the greatest pressure to sit down without being able to document. I think maybe you can put all that into consideration, because that may resolve. Would you like to, is the X-ray here? You have the enhancement of the X-ray. See that point, 15 by 6 millimeters, next to the ruler, the center portion of the film, lays right over what other radiologists have said is 10 centimeters above the external occipital protuberance.
Showing Dr. Finck the photograph of X-ray number 2, which is a lateral skull X-ray.
Down, this is the external occipital protuberance. Down around here is where, Jim, is where the tissue, dry tissue is. And up here is where this thing is, you see? Would you say it, Jim? And that's, see, the controversy, there's the confusion in part, is not only the pictures, but the correlation of the pictures in the X-ray, and the fact that you have a clear description of something that's, the way I read your report, matches that and doesn't match that.
I don't know what I thought I was trying to help and clarify things.
Oh, no, you are. You're clarifying.
Andy, Wecht on the record. I'd like to make a comment this time. This is not a case, I would like to remind the panel, of when I or Latimer has called in a previous commission or Weston or anybody else expressed opinion based upon what we thought from outside work. This is a witness who participated in the autopsy, who is here to express his opinion, who came back again today to add supplemental information. I must say, I do not believe that it is within the realm of propriety, within the realm of the parameters of this committee to continue to engage in a cross-examination. It's friendly, it's gentlemanly, there's nothing harassing about it, but I don't think that that we have that right and responsibility to continue to cross-examine. It has now gone beyond cross-examination, Michael. What you did was you are expressing your opinions to Dr. Finck. It has been made abundantly clear to him that what he is saying is an apparent disagreement with what most or all of the people here believe, and I don't think that that is right. He has a right to express his opinion. He has stated it. He has made it abundantly clear. He has used words unequivocal. He came back. He made a call last night to whomever, or this morning, I don't know, and he came back. You know, that, I think that is enough on this point. Whatever we believe, whatever this panel concludes, will be this panel's conclusions. It is not our purpose to continue to go after him, no matter how genuinely, to make him, to attempt to have him change his mind. Just so on, please, Charlie. With regard to Weston's repeated questions about, is it possible that he's made a mistake? That's something that every forensic pathologist has heard 10,000 times from attorneys. Is it possible? Most everything is possible. I'd like to add a corollary question to that, Pierre, as a follow-up, to Jim's question to you, is it possible? Is it not correct, Dr. Finck, that you made the measurements on Friday evening,
yes,
sometime after 8:30, yes, and is it not correct that you met again on Saturday the 23rd, and is it not correct that you told us yesterday that the autopsy report was reduced to writing on Sunday the 24th?
Correct.
All right. Does it not also therefore follow that if there was such a big possibility there, Jim says that he is frequently confused right and left, not confused, that he finds that he dictates one thing and his photographs show him another, right, left, up, down, antithetical here or there. Is it not correct that it was a short period of time, from Friday evening until Sunday, from your measurements until your reduction of your findings to writing? All right, now, keeping that in mind, then, do you think that it is possible that you would have made an error in your measurements of where you felt the wound was that night on Friday when you described it as being slightly above the external occipital protuberance?
It's possible. Humanly and honestly, I have to say it's possible.
Dr. Finck, this is Purdy. The question was asked with regard to the autopsy descriptive sheet. It was pointed out that the measurement of the location of the entrance wound in the head does not appear on that descriptive sheet. I believe you said yesterday that you measured, and I believe you said you wrote down the location of the entrance wound on your notes, and you gave your notes to Dr. Humes before you left the autopsy room. Is that correct?
Yes, and I could not remember exactly what wounds I measured. I would say that I took most measurements and turned over my notes to Dr. Humes. But after 40 years, how can I say I did that, I didn't do that?
Do you recall whether or not you saw your notes again on Saturday or Sunday in the preparation for the writing of the report?
I don't recall. I very well may have, because the notes were used in the preparation of the autopsy report.
A number of other questions with regard to your present recollection. I know this is difficult. If you can't recall, then that's fine. Do you recall approximately, looking at the photograph, the one we've been discussing, 42, number 42,
yes,
when your memory is refreshed by looking at the head, do you recall approximately how high on the president's head, above the hairline, his external occipital protuberance was?
I don't remember.
Do you recall approximately how high above the external occipital protuberance the wound of entry was? You described it as slightly above. Can you put that into a measurement?
No.
Does anyone else have any questions? Dr. Petty.
Yes, I'd just like to reiterate what Dr. Wecht said, in hopefully somewhat fewer words, but I don't believe that there was any intent on anyone's part to grill or subject you to badgering, and I object to the line of questioning which Dr. Baden used, where he's trying to, I suspect, get you to re-examine with a different point of view the photographs, and I must concur with Dr. Wecht. I have personally tried to stay away from that sort of questioning throughout this entire affair. It is your opinion that the hairline wound, so-called, is the wound of entrance, and that is that, as I understand it.
Yes.
Very well. It is your opinion that the hairline wound, so-called, is the wound of entrance, and that is that, as I understand it.
Yes.
Very well.
I would like to ask a question. Has this photograph been analyzed? Thank you. Has the photograph been analyzed with, I understand that somebody said that it has, with regards to the angle from which it was taken, because it strikes me that there is very little deviation due to the angle from which the photograph was taken, on distortion, or certain things are higher or lower because of distortion. I think it was taken at a relatively good angle, because if you look at that lousy ruler that's on it, of course it's not good, of course it's not clear, but the writing on it is in perfect alignment.
No, but
when there wouldn't be a perfect alignment, there would be small letters and big letters, and it would be nearer and further away from the edge if it were not taken at an angle, or if it were taken at an angle.
We looked at it in the 3D thing, and there's no question but what the ruler is in a different plane. It's closer to the camera. There's no way to tell exactly how much, but on the 3D thing we looked at on Friday afternoon, the ruler is up perceptibly above the edge of the hair.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean, Warner. And in looking at the photograph that shows the inscriptions on the ruler, the divisions, is quite clear in one of the photographs.
Yeah.
And it seems to be quite in the plane of the camera, if that's what you're saying, or the plane of the photograph.
That's right. It doesn't matter how near or how far it is from the camera. It's the angle that counts. How much angle is from the center of the lens to the head or the ruler.
Well, I don't think we have to argue about that.
And therefore, I think that the lower thing is very close proximity to the hairline, and the other one is without any doubt in the area of the cowlick.
I think that's something we can discuss after this question session. Was there something in particular you were looking for, Dr. Finck, you wanted to comment on?
Other photographs of the wound, of the perforating wound in the back of the head. Thank you.
Dr. Finck is now examining an enlargement of, you want to give the number more?
Mark, would you give me 42? Dr. Fink's not looking at 42.
He's looking at this.
I'm still at that.
There were other color prints, the perforating wound of the scalp in the back of the head, the other hairline.
Yeah, that's correct. Those are the property of the National Archives, which we cannot take out of the archives building.
I understand. Thank you.
Did you want to comment on these two that you had here? What's the thing? Dr. Finck, on enlargement number 16 of the black and white, which is an enlargement of the point you described as the wound of entry, does it appear in the photograph to you that that is above or below the external occipital protuberance?
The external occipital protuberance is not seen on these photographs. The external occipital protuberance is something you can palpate with your fingers in the hair, in the scalp, but you don't see it as a landmark on a photograph. This is an important point to make. So you can roughly establish the location of that wound in relation to the hairline, as was repeatedly done in those sessions, but not in relation to the external protuberance, for the reason that it's something you palpate with your finger.
Dr. Finck, in looking at color photograph number 43, which shows the back of the head, if you focus your attention on the point where you believe is the wound of entry, which was previously described as the hairline wound.
Yes.
refreshing your recollection, looking at that photograph, does that object, does that point that you describe as the entry wound appear to be above the external occipital protuberance in that photograph?
Again, I don't see the external occipital protuberance on the photograph. How can I answer about its relationship to it if it's not seen on the photograph?
Do you recall, in thinking back about the actual head, do you recall that the external occipital protuberance could have been below that point of entry, as you refresh your recollection, in terms of the location with the hairline? Do you believe the external occipital protuberance was closer to the hairline than that point?
I cannot refer to the hairline for the reason that in my measurements I did not refer to the hairline. So I am asked questions about things that I did not refer to.
No, I was asking you if you recalled whether or not the external occipital protuberance was closer to the hairline than that object. Do you recall that?
I don't.
Wecht, Dr. Finck, Pierre, I'd like to ask you two things, please, on the picture. Your interpretation.
Which photograph is this?
Number 42, color 4. Here, would you agree that this looks like some folds of skin here to some extent?
Yes.
Does this suggest to you that the head was held backwards, that is, in some place, some flexed position at some angle,
yes.
like, rather than extended, where it's smooth, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this does appear to be flexed to some extent, right? In this picture, because of the folds of skin.
I would say it was extended.
Extended.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's the reverse.
Thank you, the reverse, right. Okay, please have that be correct. I'm sorry, right. Extended, right.
To make folds, you need
to make
extension.
folds extension. Okay, right, I'm backward here. Thank you. The other question I wanted to ask you, Pierre, this hand, which yesterday you said you could not recognize, but does it appear to you that one or more fingers of the hand of somebody is being held beneath the scalp?
Yes, it appears to.
And is it possible that with the fingers beneath the scalp, and considering the damage that was done to the calvarium that you know about, is it possible then that the scalp is not pulled up and totally taut over the remaining calvarium? There's a possibility to be considered that this could be back a little bit from what it would normally be in its true anatomical position.
Yes.
Since there was a lot of destruction beneath, and since the fingers of a prosector are beneath the scalp, so that we already know that there is some give.
Yes, that's a possibility.
Dr. Petty?
Yes, I have just two other questions. When did you arrive in this country, this trip, Pierre?
This trip?
Yes.
On Tuesday, 7 March.
When did you last talk with Dr. Humes or Dr. Boswell?
If I am not mistaken, in January 67,
January 67.
when I came back from Vietnam to look at photographs and X-rays at the archives. And
On this case, Pierre?
on this case,
Thank you very
I
much.
don't recall having talked to Dr. Humes after 67. If you ask me, did I talk to him recently, the answer is no. This year, for example, the answer is no.
Or last year.
Or last year in 76, the answer is no. I did not talk to Dr. Humes or Dr. Boswell in 76 or 77 or 78.
Excuse me, at this time I'd like to switch the side of the tape.